Live from Singapore, this is BBC News. New Year celebrations continue across the world, with midnight still to come for North and South America. Officials in South Korea say that the design of the runway at Muan Airport may have contributed to Sunday's plane crash, which killed almost 200 people. And President Zelensky vows to bolster his country's position militarily and diplomatically in his New Year address to the Ukrainian people. Welcome to Newsday. I'm Steve Lai, and Happy New Year if you're just tuning in. It's 10 a.m. here in Singapore on the first day of 2025, but there are still New Year's celebrations gearing up and winding down around the world. In this hour, Greenland welcomes in the new year, as well as much of the Atlantic Ocean. In the last few hours, tens of thousands in London brought in the new year as a massive fireworks display erupted around the historic Elizabeth Tower in Westminster, also known as Big Ben. Here's a bird's eye view of the scene showing the colourful spectacle that welcomed in 2025. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Now let's look at some other stories making news in the UK. The veteran BBC DJ Johnny Walker has died at the age of 79, just 2 months after stepping down from the Radio 2 rock show and sounds of the 70s because of ill health. He first joined the BBC in 1969 in his lunchtime Radio 1 show, pioneering new names such as Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles and Steve Harley. Wayne Rooney has left Plymouth Argyle by mutual consent. 7 months after being appointed head coach, Rooney recorded just one win in his last 14 games as manager, with the team now bottom of the championship table. The former England captain thanked fans for their support and said Argyle would always hold a special place in his heart. And notable names have been reacting after being recognised in the New Year honours list. Stephen Fry said he was startled and enchanted to receive a knighthood, while the Happy Valley actor Sarah Lancashire said being made a CBE was an unexpected delight. More than 1,200 people have been recognised in the list. You're live with BBC News. A UN human rights report has found Israeli attacks on Gaza's hospitals have destroyed Gaza's healthcare system and that hospitals have become death traps. The report documents Israeli strikes on at least 27 of Gaza's 38 hospitals, amounting to 136 strikes between October the 7th, 2023 and June the 30th, 2024. Now, those are some impressive images from around the world that have already welcomed in 2025, but there are still a few places left for the celebrations to kick off in earnest. First one coming up in the next hour, we can take you then to Rio in Brazil, where we're expecting New Year's to be rung in just under an hour, in about just over half an hour's time. We'll also be looking ahead to New York as well, where you saw the ball being raised before the traditional ball being dropped in Times Square. Stay with BBC News.
This is BBC News. We'll have the headlines for you at the top of the hour, which is straight after this programme.
Day of 2025, but there are still New Year's celebrations gearing up and some winding down around the world. Now this hour we are bringing you live pictures from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil and the famous Copacabana beach, where you can see crowds have gathered to watch the fireworks. Let's listen in as the clock counts down to midnight. Those spectacular fireworks are being launched from 10 barges that are spread out across the sea. And there are 2.5 million people gathering in Copacabana for this celebration. It's a cool 24 degrees there this evening. People have traveled from all around the world for this moment, and it's thought that 25% of those celebrating are tourists. These fireworks are expected to go on for 12 minutes. Now, we're also keeping a close eye on the United States as well, because New York is expected to ring in the new year in just under 2 hours' time. You can see Times Square is already lit up with tens of thousands of people gathered for that moment. We'll bring you that live right here on BBC News when it happens. We'll also be looking around the world at where other places have welcomed in 2025 already. That's coming up later in the show. In the meantime, let's get you up to speed with some recent developments in South Korea, where officials have said that initial data has been extracted from the voice recorder on the Jeju airplane, which crashed on Sunday, killing 179 people. Now, the voice recorder, or black box, could give key insight into what went wrong. Investigators are now studying the data. Officials say they also now have identified all 179 bodies of those who perished in the crash. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's take a look at some other stories making news in the UK. The veteran BBC DJ Johnny Walker has died at the age of 79, just 2 months after stepping down from the Radio 2 rock show and sounds of the 70s because of ill health. He first joined the BBC in 1969 with his lunchtime Radio 1 show, pioneering new names such as Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles and Steve Lai. Wayne Rooney has left Plymouth Argyle by mutual consent 7 months after being appointed head coach. Rooney recorded just 1 win in his last 14 games as manager, with the team now bottom of the championship table. The former England captain thanked fans for their support and said Argyle would always hold a special place in his heart. And notable names have been reacting after being recognised in the New Year's honours list. Stephen Fry said he was startled and enchanted to receive a knighthood, while the Happy Valley actor Sarah Lancashire said being made a CBE was an unexpected delight. More than 1,200 people have been recognised in the list. You're live with BBC News. Now, ushering in 25 years of power as Russia's leader, President Vladimir Putin told Russians that the country will move forward with confidence in 2025 during his New Year address. Mr. Putin paid tribute to the soldiers fighting in the war in Ukraine, calling them true heroes. But as our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg reports, many people in the country want to see an end to the conflict.
Is doing some updates. The lights are being turning on in several parts of the island, but most of us are in the dark. Obviously, there's 10%.
Yeah, Ramon, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm afraid we are out of time, but thank you so much. I do hope that the lights come on for you soon and wish you all the best for the year ahead. Ramon Lewis Nivesta.
This is BBC News. We'll have the headlines for you at the top of the hour, which is straight after this programme.
Live from Singapore, this is BBC News. New Year's celebrations continue across the world, with New York just 1 hour away from midnight. South Korea says initial data has been extracted from the voice recorder of the Jeju airplane, which crashed on Sunday, killing 179 people. Crowds of supporters and opponents gather outside President Yoon Suk-yeol's home in South Korea. Investigators insist they will execute an arrest warrant against the former president before a January the 6th deadline. Welcome to Newsday. I'm Steve Lai, and Happy New Year wherever you're tuning in from. It's midday here in Singapore on the first day of 2025, but there are still New Year's celebrations gearing up and winding down around the world. In this hour, parts of eastern Canada as well as South and Central America are welcoming in the new year. Puerto Rico too. Those celebrations there are muted as nearly all of the US territory has suffered a major blackout. And we'll have more on that in just a bit. But first, let's take a quick look at the rest of the world and how they ushered in the new year. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. You're live with BBC News. Now, as we've mentioned at the top of the hour, Puerto Rico has just ushered in the new year in darkness after nearly all of the US territory has suffered a major blackout. Let's take a look at some other stories in the headlines. The president of the Ivory Coast has announced that French troops will withdraw from the West African country in 2025. In an end-of-the-year address, President Ouattara said that the move was a reflection of the modernization of the country's armed forces. Ivory Coast is home to the biggest remaining contingent of French troops in West Africa. Police in New York have named the woman who was killed after being set alight on a subway train. 57-year-old Debrina Kawam from New Jersey was attacked with a lighter while she was asleep. A man has been charged with her murder and arson. 8 years after their initial separation, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie have finally reached a divorce settlement, and there have been ongoing legal disputes involving their children and a French vineyard that they bought together. Now we are less than 30 minutes away from midnight in New York City, where about 1 million people are expected to attend the iconic ball drop in Times Square. Let's take a look and check in on the festivities with some live images for you from Times Square. You can see the ball there primed position, ready to drop in about half an hour's time. Now there are going to be some performances as well in Times Square. Rita Ora and Carrie Underwood, among several others, are expected to perform in New York once celebrations get underway. Now, this is a tradition that dates back 114 years, and this ball that we were just looking at features weighs 12,000 pounds and is made up of around 2,500 crystals. As you can imagine, a lot of security is a big concern in New York City with that many people on the ground in the streets. There are thousands of cameras present, as well as the New York Police Department and federal agencies as well, all monitoring celebrations, which we'll cover for you right here on BBC News. In the meantime, thanks for your company here on Newsday. Bye for now.
Hello there. We've got more strong winds, heavy rain and some snow as we head into the new year.